Welcome back to another Spilldrop tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at a few super module designs, and I'm going to keep it real with you guys. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter video. Some of my longer videos take kind of a long time to put together. I've noticed that I still have a hard time getting people to hang through even half of the video. It occurred to me that maybe I just need to try to make these videos a little bit shorter and more frequent. This is going to be the quick fix for the time being. For today's super module video, I wanted to start off with an exploit. Now, the snapping tool that FacePunch provided with their recent update does allow you to make some pretty neat placements, and I highly recommend using it for objects like the electric furnaces, which kind of have an asymmetrical hitbox, but for some objects, I still think it is significantly better to freehand place those objects. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you right now using the tool cupboard and some very basic exploits that I've shown in other videos. So let's go ahead and get a TC down here in this little box. Get these walls up to stone. We're going to flip these to the hard side. Now the hard side stone wall has the lowest texture of any wall texture currently available in the game. So any skin or any material that you're working with, the stone wall is still going to be the slimmest, and specifically this hard side face. With the snapping tool, you want to just take your object that you're going to put down, you're going to hold the shift key and click, and it'll snap right there in the corner. Now that placement is pretty good. When we flip the walls to the soft side, you can see that there's a little bit of an overlap there where the tool cupboard is being nestled into the texture of the wall, which is pretty good. However, if we go ahead and pop that TC out and then just freehand place it, you're going to see the difference here. Already you can see there's a little bit of a difference. I'm going to go ahead and put a side by side here so that you can get an understanding of just how much room you can save by freehand placing this. Now with the soft side wall, it's even more apparent. You lose quite a bit of that tool cupboard just kind of disappearing into the texture of the wall. And if we kind of float in here, you can see that overlap is pretty substantial there. I wouldn't say that the new snapping tool is the be all and end all. So with that intro out of the way, I'm going to get you straight into the very first super module of the day. And we're going to start with what I think might be one of my most useful modules in this collection, which will be the TC room. This is going to be a feature of pretty much any base in Rust that uses squares. You're going to need a tool cupboard in there, and you're going to probably want to have some storage as well. This is the most optimal storage solution that I have found for the current deployables that are available in Rust, while still allowing for accessibility to that very far back barrel, which can be really tricky to reach depending on how you lay this out. So if you go up here, you can see we can reach all the way back down there into that barrel. We can reach all of these barrels as well. No problem at all. And this small box back here, as well as all of these boxes on the shelves. What we're looking at is 6 barrels worth of storage, and then we've got 7 small boxes worth of storage as well. These floating shelves help you stack a few more boxes in here than you otherwise would be able to, so if you don't have the jungle DLC, you're probably not going to be able to get those floating boxes. Definitely worth it, I think. Probably the most bang for your buck would be that jungle DLC, considering how many items you get with it. So this is my most storage optimized TC room. It's not the most space optimized or the easiest to navigate. It can be a little tricky getting all the way up in here, and there's definitely not a lot of room for more than one person in here at a time. But as you can see, a ton of adapters can be squeezed into this space, including adapters on both of these 2 front barrels, and you can attach to all of the in and out nodes on those. I tended to favor the right side barrels a little bit more for those adapters. As you can see, they're kind of snapped on there and back there. All of the small boxes, except for this one in the corner, have room for at least one adapter, and the TC has its top and front adapters for all of your automation needs. Now, moving on, we're going to look at my new super optimized storage room, and I put these two side by side because these are often rooms that complement each other in a standard 2x2 design. So you've got in this layout 9 barrels worth of storage, so that's 9 large boxes, and then 4 small boxes worth of storage as well. You've got the 2 floating shelves there, the bamboo half shelf as well, and then just an absolute ton of these adapters, just to show you that this can be an interchange room for your smart base, or just a great place to have all of your loot get dumped from an auto sorting system somewhere else in your base. If we jump up in here, you can see we can still navigate pretty well in this module, and you can still access this barrel down here, which is probably the hardest one to reach. All these other ones are pretty accessible. In order to get these placements just right, I've created this kind of staggered effect where the barrels all the way out here on the right side are going to be a little further forward, and then these barrels in the middle are going to be a little closer to the wall. That gives you a little bit more space to put these adapters and squeeze these in so that they're hidden fully behind this garage door. Can't loot any of these barrels, which is pretty awesome. So they are all fully secured, as is the case with the TC room as well. So that's one of my best designs in terms of getting the most storage out of a small space like this, while still being able to easily access all of the containers in the space. Moving on here, we've got my cold storage module. Now this module allows you to deposit or withdraw materials from the cold storage through these 2 barrels here. Ideally, I would include some conveyors on this module, but to keep things a little bit more streamlined and to avoid all the questions about how to wire these things up, which are answered in a number of my other videos, I'll just leave that to your imagination. But you can pipe these 2 barrels that you see here into the barrels in this storage unit here, allowing you to have a large stockpile of a variety of different goods stored in this loot room while this garage door is closed and inaccessible. And you can just reach in here, grab those things out of the barrel by simply changing the commands on one of those conveyors. To further secure this module, I added the embrasure on the front. It's unnecessary, especially if you have a pretty good system set up for your conveyors here, but I like to have it on there just so that way you know that if you want a little bit more security, you can still access both the top and bottom barrel through one of those embrasures. You can also pipe any of these barrels through these windows by simply pulling the window out of the frame, running the pipes through the window, and then placing the window back once you're done. Moving on to what is probably my favorite module in this video. I was inspired by the gameplay of Schedule 1 that requires you to build these optimized farms where you can grow a variety of remedies for those ailments which plague the common masses, and I have just loved seeing how people create their farms, so I went ahead and created my own tiny hyper efficient farm module, kind of based on the same principles. So squeezing the most growing out of the smallest little space while still maintaining the functionality of all of the components. And that's kind of what we've got here. So looking into the Schedule 1 module, we've got quite a lot going on here. In each one of these little cubbies, we have a triangular floor planter, and then we have 2 walls full of planters. What we're looking at here is 3 of these floating shelves on each wall for each one of these 4 cubbies. On this left-hand wall for all of them, just to be consistent, each shelf has just 3 planter pots going all the way up. Now on the right side walls, the first 2 shelves have 4 planter pots. So you can see the first one a little more clearly than the second one, which you kind of can't see too well. But then if you go up here, you'll notice that the top shelf just has a gap right here in this corner. The reason for that is that I ran quite a lot of testing on this, and while the single sprinkler does kind of struggle to feed all of these pots and this planter down below, it is possible. And the same with the light. It reaches all of the plants on these shelves, which was a very tricky thing to do, and I just kept having issues with that top back planter on the right side. So the top shelf on the right side just has those 3 planter pots. Then with these 4 cubbies alone, you'll be able to grow 96 plants total. A little bit better than I had anticipated, so I'm very pleased with how this turned out, and I do think that this is one of my favorite modules so far. Each cubby, of course, has a sprinkler and a light. There's also a little drop barrel here with a hopper on top, and the last component of this module would be the storage wall. And honestly, I don't know what happened, but I struggled to get these small boxes to stack in previous videos, and I was convinced that Facepunch had patched out this feature. I finally got it to work for this video, and now I can happily tell you that you can stack small boxes again using the prison cell wall, which is incredible. So that's what I've done here. I've got boxes here for seeds, and there's also these food boxes here, a large box down here for like fertilizer and maybe some additional clones. But that is the extent of the Schedule 1 module. Very simple and straightforward. This switch just attaches to a power supply and then feeds these 4 lights and this hopper. The bottom lights down here are attached to a separate circuit, which is why I said they are completely optional and unnecessary. Such a cool looking module, and one that will really elevate any base that it gets slapped into. But before we get into the last super module, if you haven't already, consider liking the video if you've enjoyed what you've seen so far. It means so much to me, and it helps YouTube share this content with other people who might enjoy it. Now, last and admittedly probably least is the module that I think might still get the most use, and that is going to be my tier 1 open core. Now, it's open core with maybe an asterisk, because in reality you can really only get into about here to access the core, and it can be tough to access those back barrels unless you kind of squeeze your way in here. You can of course kind of jump, squish your way in here so you can get up and access these barrels, no problem that way, but it is kind of a nightmare. The primary benefit that we see from having a layout like this is it takes advantage of this 3 triangle floor plan. So if you've got a square or 2 squares next to each other, you'll probably have room for 3 little triangles off the side. This is a pretty good option while you're getting your footing. You've got room for a tier 1 and engineering workbench so that you can get all of your BPs from that, a research table as well as a large box, and 6 barrels back behind it. 2 small boxes fit under the engineering workbench, and aside from that, there is just not a lot else that you can put in here. You can attach some adapters here and there wherever they'll fit. For some reason you can't get an adapter on the front of this barrel. I don't know why, when you can get those too for whatever reason, so I don't know what the deal is with that. But other than that, I've got these 2 trophies here to give you some extra comfort, so that way you can feel a little bit better about being the most scuffed person on your server, living out of this absolute rat hole of a super module. So navigation probably 0 out of 10, but functionality, I'd say this is probably about an 8 out of 10. You've got quite a lot that you can do with it, and it keeps a lot of these big, silly, deployable items that are unfortunately very necessary to progression well out of the way of the rest of the base. And with that, we come to the conclusion of this super modules tutorial video. If you have any specific questions about how any of these modules come together, feel free to leave those down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching another Super Modules video. I'm your friend Spilldrop. If you've enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel so that you get an alert when I put out my next Super Modules video. This has been your friend Spilldrop, and I will catch you in the next video.